Recently, we learned about screenwriting techniques and how to plan plot for a film. We also learned about the 5 or 6 main components of each storyline, and these include introduction of setting and characters, explanation of a state of affairs, complicating action, ensuing events, outcome, and ending. So these are basically different steps in every plot that happens most of the time in films. Another way we learnt about these steps is by creating a graph to visualize how each step goes. So at the beginning, the intro starts with the equilibrium, where every character is mostly happy and the environment has been undisturbed and these people are at peace. There is then a development of storyline in which something happens to cause a disequilibrium. Disequilibrium means a shift in the balance of the piece, of the world, and the characters. The storyline then progresses to have different obstacles in it. So this may be an encounter with the antagonist, or an encounter with the sidekick, or maybe even a physical impairment that hinders the protagonist from reaching his goal. We then learned that these side stories or these B stories could also be intertwined and connected to blend in with the lead narrative and create a more diverse and a more rich experience in all that is the story. We also learned about different screenwriting techniques such as telegraphing. So, telegraphing could also be known as pointing or advertising, and this basically allows moments of time to be skipped through dialogue. For example, if someone says, "Meet me at the Burger King at 5 o'clock," this allows them to then cut to said Burger King without having to show characters moving to this location. This makes storyline much more concise and cuts out needless detail. However, telegraphing could also be called false telegraphing when used to say, "Let's meet at Burger King at 5," but then it cuts to a different scene in a different location, not Burger King, in order to create a certain sense of enigma. Another technique is dangling cause. So this is when films became longer over time, they would use this technique, dangling cause. Back when films were shorter, they'd base their plot off a series of cause and effects. Now, dangling cause is when there is a cause but the effect only is happening later in the plot. This in turn adds suspense to the plot and keeps the audience wondering what will happen to this cause and what will the effect be. Another useful screenwriting technique that we learned was called dramatic irony. And dramatic irony is when the audience knows more than the actors on screen know. This technique has often been used in comedies, as many characters can misconstrue certain pieces of information, and then their interpretation of this said information can be quite comical. And these are essentially the basics of what we learned so far in screenwriting techniques.